Hello everyone. Today we will discuss the MCQ questions which have been asked in the gluteal region. For a detailed class on anatomy of the gluteal region, you can watch it in my YouTube channel Learn Anatomy with Dr. Shweta. So let us discuss the gluteal region today. Several questions have been asked on the hip bone. So as you all can see here, this is the hip bone. It is made up of three bones: the ilium, the ischium and the pubis. Now several questions have been asked on ischial tuberosity. So the tuberosity which you see here, that is known as ischial tuberosity. They mainly ask the attachment on this ischial tuberosity. So let us see what muscles are attached to this ischial tuberosity. Now what you are seeing here, this is the ischial tuberosity of the hip bone. So this is the ischial tuberosity of the hip bone. A horizontal line divides this area into almost upper quadrilateral area and the lower triangular area. Further, what happens is an oblique ridge. An oblique ridge divides this upper quadrilateral area into superolateral area, superomedial area. So this is the acetabulum which is on the lateral aspect. So this is the superolateral area and this is the superomedial area. Further, what happens? In the lower triangular area, a vertical ridge, you can see here, this is the vertical ridge, divides the lower triangular area into inner area which is subcutaneous, and outer area and the outer area. So this is about the ischial tuberosity. Now let us see what muscles are attached to the ischial tuberosity, which is a MCQ question. Now the muscles attached to this ischial tuberosity, they are called as hamstring muscles. So these muscles are called as hamstring muscles. So let us see what are the hamstring muscles. Attached to the superolateral area is a muscle which is known as semimembranosus. Semimembranosus. So semimembranosus is attached to superolateral area of the ischial tuberosity. Now let us see what muscles are attached to the superomedial area of the ischial tuberosity. To the superomedial area, two muscles are attached, namely semitendinosus. So you have the semitendinosus. Along with that, we have long head of biceps femoris muscle. So these two muscles will arise from the superomedial area. Now in the lower triangular area, the inner region, it is subcutaneous. There is no muscle attachment. Now to the outer region of the lower triangular space, the ischial fibers of the adductor magnus muscle will be attached here. As you already know by now, adductor magnus muscle has two components. One is the adductor component and the other one will be the ischial component. Adductor component you would have already known by now. It arises from the ischiopubic rami, whereas the ischial component of the adductor magnus arises from the ischial tuberosity. So these are the muscles which are attached to the ischial tuberosity. This is a frequently asked MCQ question. So to revise or to sum up, onto the superolateral area, semimembranosus, a hamstring muscle, is attached. Onto superomedial area, two muscles, semitendinosus and long head of biceps femoris will be attached. Onto the outer aspect of the lower triangular area, the ischial component of the adductor magnus muscle will be attached. So we will solve this MCQ question when it comes. So let us solve this question. The ischial tuberosity provides attachment to, we already discussed, this is the ischial tuberosity dividing into upper triangular and upper quadrilateral and lower triangular area oblique ridge divides this upper quadrilateral area into superolateral, superomedial. Lower triangular area is divided by vertical ridge into inner and outer aspect. So the ischial tuberosity provides attachment to, you already know by now, superolaterally semimembranosus is attached, superomedially semitendinosus plus long head of biceps femoris muscle is attached. Onto the outer aspect of the lower triangular area, the ischial component of the adductor magnus muscle is attached. So let us solve this question. Obturator internus is not attached to the ischial tuberosity. Quadratus femoris is also not attached to the ischial tuberosity. Gluteus maximus is also not attached to the ischial tuberosity, whereas the ischial component of the adductor magnus muscle is attached to the outer aspect of the lower triangular space of the ischial tuberosity. So the answer will be adductor magnus muscle. Now to solve this question furthermore, we saw that adductor magnus is attached to the ischial tuberosity. Obturator internus. Let us see this muscle. In green, what you are seeing here, that is the obturator internus muscle. This muscle arises from the obturator membrane. It has nothing to do with the ischial tuberosity. So, the origin and insertion of this muscle we will study in the later slide when we study about the gluteal region. So, obturator internus has nothing to do with this. Quadratus femoris. This muscle arises from the outer aspect of the ischial tuberosity and not the ischial tuberosity. So again, this is ruled out. Gluteus maximus, we will discuss in detail about this muscle. Again, this is not arising from ischial tuberosity. So your answer will be adductor magnus. This is the adductor magnus muscle. This slide was to show that the quadratus femoris, which is here, it arises from the outer aspect of the ischial tuberosity and it gained its insertion to the quadrate tubercle. We will discuss this in detail later. Now true about the attachment of ischial tuberosity. So again the same thing, ischial tuberosity, it is further divided like this, which is well known by now. So this is the superolateral area, superomedial area, inner area, outer area. So superolaterally you have semimembranosus, superomedially semitendinosus plus long head of biceps femoris. To the outer triangular area you have ischial component of the adductor magnus muscle. So let us solve this question. Origin of semitendinosus from superolateral area. Superolateral area, it is not semitendinosus, it is semimembranosus. Therefore, this option is wrong. Origin of semimembranosus from superolateral area, exactly correct. So, semimembranosus arises from superolateral area. Origin of long head of biceps femoris from inferolateral area. This is wrong because long head of biceps femoris arises from superomedial area. Origin of adductor magnus from inferomedial area. Wrong. Adductor magnus arises from outer aspect of the lower triangular area. So your answer will be this one. Semimembranosus arising from upper superolateral area of the ischial tuberosity. So this was the explanation of this answer to show that from the superolateral area of the ischial tuberosity, semimembranosus will arise. Now let us start the gluteal region. As you can see, let us discuss the extent of the gluteal region. The gluteal region extends the entire iliac crest of the hip bone, posterior aspect of the sacrum and the coccyx, from the gluteal fold and an imaginary line drawn between anterior superior iliac spine and anterior aspect of the greater trochanter. So this is the extent of the gluteal region. Let us move on to the next slide. So when you start the dissection of the gluteal region, once the skin is reflected, we encounter the superficial fascia, which is abundantly filled with subcutaneous fat. After that, we have the deep fascia. So let us see the attachment of the deep fascia. So the deep fascia is attached to the entire iliac crest above. This deep fascia splits twice to enclose two muscles. We will discuss that. It first splits to enclose a muscle which is called as tensor fascia lata. It further reunites to form the gluteal aponeurosis. Underneath the gluteal aponeurosis is a muscle which is the gluteus medius muscle. It further resplits to enclose a muscle which is the gluteus maximus muscle. So here there is tensor fascia lata, here there is gluteus maximus, and here you have the gluteal aponeurosis. Posteriorly it is attached to the dorsal aspect of the sacrum and the coccyx. Now this deep fascia, there are several modifications. One of the modification on the anterolateral aspect is the iliotibial tract. You can appreciate here the thickening here of the deep fascia, which is called as the iliotibial tract. You all can appreciate here two muscles are gaining their attachment to this iliotibial tract. What are the two muscles? Tensor fascia lata. This is the tensor fascia lata, and this muscle is the gluteus maximus muscle. They both are attaching to the modification of the deep fascia, which is the iliotibial tract. Let's move on to the next slide. So there are several muscles we encounter in the gluteal region. These muscles are arranged in different planes. What are the planes? We have the superficial plane or the superficial layer. Next to that will be the intermediate layer. Deeper to that will be the deep layer. Let us see what are these muscles present in each layer. First, we will start with the superficial layer. Immediately once you remove the skin, you will encounter the superficial fascia, deep fascia, and after that, in the superficial plane, you will encounter two muscles. What are they? Gluteus maximus and tensor fascia lata. So this vast muscle here which you are seeing is the gluteus maximus, and this muscle is the tensor fascia lata. As you can appreciate, both these muscles are attaching to the iliotibial tract. So in the superficial plane, you have two muscles, namely gluteus maximus and tensor fascia lata. Let's move on to the intermediate plane. In the intermediate plane, there are several muscles. So the muscle here what you're seeing is the gluteus medius muscle. And this muscle is the key muscle of the gluteal region, and that is called as piriformis muscle. We will discuss it in detail in the next slides. And there are three slender muscles what you're seeing here. This is the obturator internus. So you have the obturator internus. This muscle here is the superior gemini. Superior gemini. This muscle here is the inferior gemini. All these three muscles together is called as tricipital tendon. This muscle is called as quadratus femoris. So this muscle is quadratus femoris. What you are seeing here is the upper part of the adductor magnus muscle, and these are the origin of hamstring muscles. So these are the muscles you will see in the intermediate area. So let us quickly revise them once again. In the intermediate area, the muscles you encounter will be the gluteus medius muscle. You have the key muscle which is the piriformis muscle. Then you have the obturator internus, superior gemini, inferior gemini. You have the quadratus femoris here, upper part of the adductor magnus, origin of the hamstring muscles. So these muscles are present in the intermediate layer. Let us move on to the deep layer. The muscles present in the deep layer are gluteus minimus. So this muscle here is the gluteus minimus and reflected head of the rectus femoris. As you can see here, this muscle is the rectus femoris. It has two heads, straight head arising from anterior inferior iliac spine and the reflected head. So this is the reflected head of the rectus femoris. So these two muscles are present in the deepermost strata. Let us move on to the next slide. Now several MCQ questions have been asked on the attachment of the gluteus maximus muscle. We already saw that this gluteus maximus muscle was in the superficial layer. So this vast muscle here is the gluteus maximus muscle, which you encounter immediately once you remove the skin, superficial fascia and the deep fascia. Let us see the attachment of this gluteus maximus muscle. So for that, for studying the attachment of the gluteus maximus muscle, let us first see the ilium of the hip bone. As you all can appreciate here, this is the greater sciatic notch of the hip bone. From the greater sciatic notch, there are several lines passing. A line passing from the greater sciatic notch to the anterior superior iliac spine is called as inferior gluteal line. A line passing from the upper margin of the greater sciatic notch to the tubercle of the iliac crest is called as anterior gluteal line. A line passing from the greater sciatic notch to the dorsal segment of the iliac crest is called as posterior gluteal line. So these are the three gluteal lines present. Now let us see the attachment of gluteus maximus muscle. Now this gluteus maximus muscle is attached to the ilium of the hip bone behind the posterior gluteal line and also dorsal segment of the iliac crest. So this is the area which gives attachment to the gluteus maximus muscle. Furthermore, gluteus maximus also arises from the gluteal aponeurosis. That is the second attachment. It also arises from the dorsal aspect of the sacrum and the coccyx. It also arises from the posterior thoracolumbar fascia. So this is the posterior thoracolumbar fascia from which gluteus maximus muscle will also arise. So these are the origin of the gluteus maximus. Let us see the insertion. 3/4 of the muscle will be inserted to the iliotibial tract, which is a modification of the deep fascia. Whereas 1/4 of this gluteus maximus will be attached to the gluteal tuberosity of the femur. Now where will you mark the gluteal tuberosity? For that, you have to see the posterior aspect of the femur. You have to trace the lateral lip of the linea aspera. Above, it ends in the gluteal tuberosity where 1/4 of the gluteus maximus will be attached. 3/4 will be attached to the iliotibial tract. So that was about the gluteus maximus. Questions have been asked on the attachment of the gluteus maximus. Let us move on to the next slide. The question has been asked on the bursas in relation to gluteus maximus muscle. There are several bursas. We will discuss the most important ones. We have a bursa here that is known as gluteo. It is known as gluteofemoral bursa. So this bursa is present in between the gluteus maximus muscle and vastus lateralis. This is a MCQ question. Gluteofemoral bursa is present between gluteus maximus muscle and vastus lateralis. There is one more bursa which is called as trochanteric bursa, which is present between gluteus maximus and the greater trochanter of the hip bone. We also have ischial bursa, which is present between the gluteus maximus and the ischial tuberosity. The MCQ question asked here will be gluteofemoral bursa, which is present between the gluteus maximus and vastus lateralis. Let us move on to the next slide. So in the superficial plane, we already discussed about the gluteus maximus muscle. its attachment and the bursas in relation. Now we will discuss another muscle of the superficial plane which is called as tensor fascia lata. So this muscle, it arises from the anterior superior iliac spine to the tubercle of the iliac crest. So that is the attachment of the tensor fascia lata. Its insertion will be to the iliotibial tract. In this slide, we will see the intermediate muscle. So we have already finished the muscles which are present in the superficial plane. Now we will see the muscles in the intermediate plane. So first let us discuss the gluteus medius muscle. So this gluteus medius muscle arises from the hilum of the hip bone in between the posterior gluteal line and the anterior gluteal line. So in this region is present or attached the gluteus medius muscle. Let us see its insertion. MCQ questions have been asked on this. Gluteus medius muscle is inserted onto the femur. Where in the femur? To the lateral aspect of the greater trochanter of the femur on an oblique ridge. So this is where the gluteus medius muscle is attached. So to revise it once again, it is attached, gluteus medius is attached on the lateral surface of the greater trochanter of the femur in an oblique ridge. So this is the attachment of the gluteus medius muscle. Now we will discuss the next muscle of the intermediate area. We already said that piriformis muscle is known as the key muscle of this region. Let us see why. First let us see its attachment. MCQ question have been asked on this. So piriformis muscle arises from the anterior aspect of the sacrum from the bony bars in between the anterior sacral foramina and also the bony mass on the lateral aspect of anterior sacral foramina. So once it arises, the fibers will pass laterally and it will cross the greater sciatic notch and it will exit the pelvis. It will come and attach to the apex of the greater trochanter of the femur. We will see in the next slide. So here you can appreciate the piriformis muscle exiting the greater sciatic foramen and it is coming out of the pelvis. It is gaining its attachment to the apex of greater trochanter of the femur. Now this muscle is called as key muscle. That is because several structures will emerge from the upper border of this muscle and lower border of the muscle. That is why it is called as the key muscle of this region. As already discussed, this is the piriformis muscle here. You can appreciate the structures emerging above the piriformis muscle and the structures emerging below the piriformis muscle. That is why it is called as the key muscle of this region. Now we will move on to the next muscles of the intermediate plane, namely obturata internus and the two gemini. Obturata internus muscle arises from the obturator membrane. So after arising from the obturator membrane, this is the obturator membrane. It abruptly bends 90 degree. It bends 90 degree in the lesser sciatic notch. So this is the lesser sciatic notch. So the fibers bend 90 degree in the lesser sciatic notch, accompany along with its friends superior gemini, inferior gemini, and all of them will gain insertion into the trochanteric fossa. So we will discuss here. This is the obturator internus muscle. This is the superior gemini. This is the inferior gemini. All of them will be attached to the trochanteric fossa of the femur. So that was about the obturator internus. We will also discuss about the gemini. You can see here, so obturator internus arises from the obturator membrane. Superior gemini will arise from just below the ischial spine, whereas inferior gemini will arise from, so this is for the superior gemini, this is for the inferior gemini. So that was about the obturator internus and the gemini muscle. Now we will discuss quadratus femoris. As already discussed, quadratus femoris arises from the outer aspect of the ischial tuberosity. After arising, the fibers attach to the quadrate tubercle of the femur. So let us see the quadrate tubercle of the femur. So this is the posterior aspect of the femur. If you trace the iliac crest, you will find a tubercle here, and that is called as quadrate tubercle. To this quadrate tubercle, quadratus femoris muscle will be attached. Now quickly we can discuss the muscles here. This is the gluteus medius muscle. This is a key muscle of the gluteal region piriformis. This is the obturator internus, superior gemini, inferior gemini. This is the quadratus femoris. This is the upper fibers of the adductor magnus, and these are the origin of the hamstring muscle. The nerve which is here emerging from the lower border of the piriformis is known as sciatic nerve. Now we will discuss the muscles in the deepermost strata. So muscles in the deepermost strata is gluteus minimus and the reflected part of the tensor fascia, reflected head of the rectus femoris muscle. So gluteus minimus arises in the ilium of the hip bone between the anterior gluteal line and the inferior gluteal line. So this is the attachment of the gluteus minimus. MCQ question has been asked on the insertion. So gluteus minimus is inserted on the anterior aspect of the greater trochanter of the femur. So this is about the minimus. Medius was attached to the lateral aspect of the greater trochanter. Minimus is attached to the anterior aspect of the greater trochanter of the femur. Now this was the other muscle in the deepermost plane, that is the reflected head of the rectus femoris muscle. So this was attached to the ilium just above the acetabulum. So that was about the reflected head. Now let us discuss MCQ question. Actions of the gluteus maximus muscle. During jogging, running or climbing stairs. So this gluteus maximus muscle, this is a very good extensor of the hip joint in actions like jogging, climbing stairs. But when you walk in a normal walking phase silently, the extension of the hip joint will be brought about the hamstring. So only during running, climbing stairs, gluteus maximus muscle brings about extension at the hip joint. Now this again MCQ question, gluteus maximus muscle, it's an anti-gravity muscle and helps from sitting to standing position. The gluteus maximus muscle is also a very good lateral rotator of the hip joint. The action of other muscles like piriformis, obturator internus, gemini, quadratus femoris, all these muscles bring about lateral rotation of the hip joint. Now moving into a very important aspect, nerve supply. Frequently several questions have been asked on this. So we already discussed that this is the piriformis muscle, which is a key muscle. This is the upper border of piriformis, lower border of the piriformis muscle. So superior gluteal nerve emerges from the upper border of the piriformis muscle. Very important, superior gluteal nerve. It is called superior because it's emerging from the upper border of the piriformis. This muscle supplies very important muscles, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus and tensor fascia lata. Very important. Superior gluteal nerve will supply gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, tensor fascia lata. Now emerging from the lower border of the piriformis muscle will be inferior gluteal nerve. Inferior gluteal nerve will supply the vast gluteus maximus muscle. So MCQ questions have been asked on this. We can discuss about this later. Now quickly revising about the nerve supply of these two muscles. You can see here superior gluteal nerve supplies gluteus medius muscle, gluteus minimus muscle, tensor fasciae lata muscle, whereas inferior gluteal nerve will supply gluteus maximus muscle. All the following structures passes through the lesser sciatic foramen except. Now for this question, you have to remember something called as pin structures. What are these pin structures? P stands for pudendal nerve. I stands for internal pudendal vessels. N stands for nerve to obturator internus. So these are the structures, pin structures, which pass through the lesser sciatic foramen. I will be showing the diagram for this. So the answer except will be this one. So let us see the answer. You can see here all the following structures pass through the lesser sciatic foramen except. Now in this diagram, what you can see here is the greater sciatic foramen and lesser sciatic foramen. So they are asking structures passing through the lesser sciatic foramen. Actually, these pin structures which we discussed just now, they pass from the greater sciatic foramen, hook around the sacrospinous ligament, and they travel back into the lesser sciatic foramen. So these are the pin structures. So namely pudendal nerve, internal pudendal vessel, nerve to obturator internus. You can appreciate it here. So this is the pudendal nerve. You will have nerve to obturator internus. In between will be the internal pudendal vessels. So these are the structures, pin structures passing from the greater sciatic foramen, hooking around the sacrospinous ligament and going back into the lesser sciatic foramen. This diagram was to show you that this is the sacrospinous ligament. The structures hooking from greater sciatic foramen to the lesser sciatic foramen are the pin structures. Pudendal nerve, internal pudendal vessels, nerve to obturator internus muscle. Let us solve another MCQ question. Structures passing through both greater and lesser sciatic foramen are all except. You already know it by now. The structures passing to both greater and lesser sciatic foramen, they are called as pin structures. P for pudendal nerve, I for internal pudendal vessels, N for nerve to obturator internus. So except will be this tendon of obturator internus. So again the same thing here. These are the pin structures. Pudendal nerve, obturator, this is the internal pudendal vessels, nerve to obturator internus. So these are the structures which pass from the greater sciatic to the lesser sciatic foramen, hooking on a ligament which is called as sacrospinous ligament. You already know this answer. Gluteofemoral bursa is present between. We already discussed it was present between gluteus maximus and vastus lateralis. So this is the answer. We can see here. So answer is vastus lateralis. We will see the diagram for that. So the bursa, gluteofemoral bursa is in between gluteus maximus muscle and vastus lateralis muscle. So somewhere in between them, you will have this bursa, and that bursa is called as gluteofemoral bursa. So which nerve does not supply the gluteal region? So for that, we will discuss the answer. Superior gluteal nerve, you already know that it supplies, superior gluteal nerve will supply the gluteus medius, gluteus minimus and tensor fascia lata. Now to quadratus femoris, we will discuss that. This is the quadratus femoris muscle. The nerve to quadratus femoris will supply the quadratus femoris muscle along with that inferior gemmelli muscle. So nerve to quadratus femoris will supply quadratus femoris muscle plus inferior gemmelli muscle. Now nerve to obturator internus will supply obturator internus muscle and superior gemmelli muscle. So this will supply obturator internus, and the superior gemmelli muscle. So the option left out is the sciatic nerve, which mainly supplies the hamstring muscles or the muscles of the back of the thigh. Now one more MCQ question. Superior gluteal nerve supplies all except. You already saw by now. Superior gluteal nerve, which emerged above the upper border of the piriformis muscle. It supplied gluteus medius, gluteus minimus and tensor fascia lata. Gluteus maximus was supplied by inferior gluteal nerve. So that's the answer. This diagram was to show superior gluteal nerve supplying gluteus medius, gluteus minimus and tensor fascia lata. Injury to the nerve which passes superior to the piriformis winds around the greater sciatic notch paralysis. So the nerve passing above the piriformis, you already know it is a superior gluteal nerve which supplies the gluteus medius, minimus and tensor fascia lata. So the answer will be gluteus medius. So again this was to show superior gluteal nerve passing above the piriformis muscle supplying gluteus medius, gluteus minimus and tensor fascia lata. Gluteus maximus is inserted on 2. We already discussed by now. 3/4 of the muscle was inserted to the iliotibial tract, whereas 1/4 of the muscle was inserted into gluteal tuberosity on the femur. So that's the answer. It is attached to the iliotibial tract. 3/4 is inserted into the iliotibial tract. 1/4 will be inserted into the gluteal tuberosity of the femur. Now true regarding origin and insertion of piriformis muscle. We saw that piriformis muscle arises from the sacrum. So origin of sacrum ilium and inserted on the lesser trochanter. No, piriformis inserted into the apex of the greater trochanter. So this is the answer. Let us see the answer for this. So the piriformis muscle arises from the bony bars in between the anterior sacral foramina and also the lateral mass. The fibers passed out laterally through the greater sciatic notch and it gained attachment to the apex of the greater trochanter, not the lesser trochanter. Gluteus medius is supplied by which nerve? Obviously you know it by now. It is superior gluteal nerve. Inferior gluteal nerve supplies the gluteus maximus. Okay. So this was to show that the superior gluteal nerve supplies the gluteus medius muscle. Muscles attach the lateral surface of greater trochanter. We already discussed gluteus maximus 3/4 was attached to the iliotibial tract, whereas 1/4 was attached to the gluteal tuberosity of the femur. Medius was attached to lateral surface of the greater trochanter in an oblique ridge. Minimus was attached to the anterior aspect of the greater trochanter of the femur. Piriformis was attached to the apex of the greater trochanter of the femur. So the answer is to the lateral surface medius. Let us see it once again. This is the lateral surface of the greater trochanter of the femur. To an oblique ridge will be attached the gluteus medius muscle. So this is the anterior aspect of the greater trochanter to which the minimus will be attached. Medius is attached to the lateral aspect in an oblique ridge. Now we will discuss a very important topic, Trendelenburg's test. What exactly is this test? Now when you stand on the ground, what happens is the level of the pelvis is in the same horizontal line. The pelvis is maintained in the same horizontal line. Now if you lift one leg as in walking, what happens is one lower limb is supported on the ground, other lower limb is not supported on the ground. The half of the pelvis which is not supported on the ground, naturally what happens? Gravity should pull it down because this lower limb is not supported. But that is prevented by the opposite healthy gluteus medius muscle and gluteus minimus muscle by their abductor action. So what happens is the half of the pelvis of unsupported leg is prevented from sagging down by the opposite gluteus medius and gluteus minimus via their abductor action. So, when you lift one leg off the ground, that half of the pelvis is not sagging because of the opposite healthy gluteus medius and minimus. Now, unfortunately, if a person stands on the leg whose gluteus medius and minimus have been paralyzed, these muscles fail to lift the unsupported pelvis and thereby the pelvis will sag down. Such patients will have a gait which is called as lurching gait. So this is a Trendelenburg's sign. So as you can see here, the person is standing on the lower limb whose gluteus medius and minimus have been paralyzed and thereby these two muscles which are supplied by the superior gluteal nerve are failing to lift the half of the pelvis on the unsupported leg. So this is a positive Trendelenburg test. So this patient with Trendelenburg test positive, they have a lurching gait. So the patient will lurch on the affected side. We will discuss the next question. In walking, gravity tends to tilt the pelvis and the trunk of the unsupported side. Major factor preventing this unwanted movement we already discussed is the gluteus medius and minimus muscle. We will solve it. So we discussed that the gravity tilts the pelvis on the unsupported side of the lower limb, which is prevented by the opposite gluteus medius and gluteus minimus muscle by their abductor action. Wrong about Trendelenburg test. So, contraction of gluteus maximus is assessed? No. It is a test on gluteus medius and minimus. Positive in superior gluteal nerve damage? Exactly. Because medius and minimus is supplied by superior gluteal nerve. Right pelvis drops down in left superior gluteal nerve lesion. Bilateral region results in paddling gait. The answer, the wrong about Trendelenburg test is this one because it is not done on gluteus maximus muscle. So that was about the test. You already discussed about the Trendelenburg positive sign. Trendelenburg test is positive due to injury to which nerve? Trendelenburg test is done to test gluteus medius and minimus muscle, which both are supplied by superior gluteal nerve. So injury should be to the superior gluteal nerve. Inability to maintain the pelvis while standing on one leg. Nerve paralyzed obviously will be superior gluteal nerve. Now we discuss one more question. An 83-year-old man has trouble walking at his physician office, is asked to stand on the right foot and his left hip drops. Which of the following nerve is most likely damaged causing his problem? Let us solve this question. They are saying the person 83-year-old man is standing on his right leg and the right sided gluteus medius minimus are paralyzed, thereby the left unsupported side of the pelvis is tilting down. So which nerve is paralyzed? Obviously it has to be the right side of superior gluteal nerve. Right superior gluteal nerve is paralyzed, therefore gluteus medius and minimus are paralyzed, thereby they are not supporting the opposite half of the pelvis of the unsupported leg. Identify the marked muscle in the gluteal region. So this muscle is the quadratus femoris. Let us solve it now. Gluteus minimus muscle. This is the piriformis muscle. Obturata internis, superior gemini, inferior gemini. This is the adductor magnus. This is the hamstring muscles. So the answer is quadratus femoris. Which of the following muscle is involved in movement from sitting to standing? We already studied this. Anti-gravity action of the gluteus maximus muscle. So this was about today's class. Thank you so much for listening.